All right, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Tuesday, August 10th edition of the MMAOB Daily Podcast. I'm your host, as always, on Tuesday afternoons, Adam Martin. I'm joined by my co-host, Mr. Big Marcel. What's going on, man? How's it going?
All good, man. Still pretty much the same as yesterday, so yeah, all
I don't
good.
even know
How
why
are you?
people are asking you, Marcel. It's the same. It could be the same answer every time. It's
Yeah.
But I'm good. I'm doing good, man. I just wanted to say thanks. Marcel sent me my daughter Gracie a teddy bear, which was really nice of you, Marcel. He definitely lived up to his nickname, Big Marcel, because the teddy bear is about 100 times the size of the baby. So we got a key picture out of it, but I don't know if she can play with it yet, Marcel. She might have to grow up a little bit first. But
Yeah.
I truly appreciate that, man. Thank you so much. But yeah, things are good, man. I mean, being a dad is it's been interesting. I gotta say that, but it's been good. I feel good about it, man. Like it's like I said to you last week, Marcel. It's like the next step in my life. You know what I mean? Like I feel like an adult for once. I don't feel like a little kid for once. So it's actually good. Anyways, we got quite a bit to talk about today. We'll be here for an hour with you guys. PFL this weekend, Bellator this weekend. Lots of news, lots of fight announcements. A couple were announced today. We'll start with Bellator and then we'll do PFL. But I want to ask you before I got anything. I just saw Rose Namajunas. There was some video of her training, and she said she's starting her camp. Have you heard anything about who she's fighting?
No idea, but better be Carla Esparza.
Yeah, no, I mean, I still think she deserves it most, but there's still that chance that Wheelie could get the rematch. So I don't know right now.
I'd be really pissed about that because that shouldn't happen, man. In my opinion, they should do Whaley against Joanna. In my opinion.
Yeah, I agree with you, Marcel. Like that fight last year, we all saw the fight. It was amazing. One of the best. I mean, I can't think of a better women's MMA fight. It was the best I've ever seen. Right?
You can make it a main event even for a fight night if you want.
It could easily be 5 rounds fight night, and then you do Rose and Carla, probably co-main event on a pay-per-view or maybe the third title fight. I don't know if Rose can headline a pay-per-view yet. Like she's a great fighter, but you don't think so either, right?
No, probably not.
And she's
I wouldn't mind.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind it. I have no problem with Rose. I love her, but as a fighter, but I mean as a star, I don't know. Like I think that they would want to have someone else headline the card. Alex, what's going on, man? Glad to have you here again, as always, my man. But yeah, I just saw that, Marcel, so I was going to ask you about that. There is quite a bit of news we'll get to, but I want to do Bellator first. We're not going to do like the most in-depth review here, guys. We only have an hour. We're going to talk about Bellator. We're going to do PFL. We're not going to be going through every single skill the guys have like we do with the UFC cards. But I do want to talk about the pardon?
2 fights are off.
Yeah, I know. So 2 fights just got off. We should mention that first. So of course, my boy Cole Shelton interviewed Danny Sabatello, and the article's coming out at 5 o'clock. And at 3 o'clock, the fight got called off. The article's still going to go up, but he tested positive for COVID. I thought he was going to win his fight. I mean, the guy is a very good grappler, and his interview is going to come out because he's super pissed at Bellator's the ranking panel. He beat Brett Johns, but he's not ranked. He's really pissed about it. Any thoughts on that before we even get this card?
I agree. The thing is maybe that Brett Johns and him are both pretty much new to Bellator, sure. But Brett Johns is a very solid fighter in my opinion. So yeah, I can understand how he sees that because I think many people pick Brett Johns, but Sabatello has such a good wrestling style that he is a tough opponent for pretty much almost anybody right there. So
yeah, absolutely. He's not the most exciting guy in the world, obviously, but he's effective, right? Like with his style. Yeah. That's why Dana White didn't pick him up on Contender Series because he had a good performance. Anyways, his fight with Johnny Campbell's off. That was going to be a good fight. I was looking forward to that fight. I think Johnny Campbell's an underrated fighter. And the James Adcock, Necruz, Mirko Hive, that fight was canceled too. Get this call from AJ's dad, Zach. Hey, what's going on, man? What's going on, Zach? So you're Zach and your son's AJ. There we go. I don't think it's AJ Shula, though. It's probably another AJ. Hey, guys, definitely excited to hear about PFL Bellator. We're wondering if Jared Gooding versus Derek Lee is a chance to be booked. Jared Gooding's calling up Kevin Lee. I don't think he'll get the fight, but it is on short notice, and there's not going to be a lot of options with 2 weeks to go. So maybe, but I don't think so. What are you going to
say? I think D-Rod has a better chance getting it.
I would love to see that fight. That would be a sick fight, and I think that D-Rod's more deserving of a bigger name right now because he's on a longer win streak. But good. Why not? Why not throw your name out there? I don't blame him. You're just coming off a big win. Why not?
Who do you think Lee? I think Lee, if Lee is going to fight at welterweight, I think you want to have at least somebody with a kind of a name value. I don't think Lee wants to have, no disrespect to Gooden, but Gooden lost his first 2 fights in the UFC. He won pretty impressive against Stoltz the last time out. But I'd be surprised if Lee takes that fight, man. I think Lee wants a higher step up in that ranking. But yeah, it's probably not going to be better than Sean Brady, anyways. But yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Sweet side to let's hit some Bellator PFL chalk. Probably more in Bellator or PFL, which has had some crazy upsets. But anyways, let's talk about this card. And again, we're not going to go like crazy in depth, but I definitely want to talk about these fights. We'll start at the top here, actually, Marcel. We'll go from the top down this time. Because the fight I want to talk about the most is definitely the main event here between Gegard Mousasi and John Salter. It should be a good fight. Right now, Gegard Mousasi minus 280, John Salter plus 240. So the odds have actually gone down because Gegard opened at minus 400. So there's some respect coming in here from early opening line here on John Salter. I expect Mousasi to get some more parlay action later in the week probably and to get over 3-1. I mean, I definitely like seeing John Salter get some respect. He's a really good fighter, but I mean, I think Mousasi rolls for sure, man. What do you think?
Listen, man, if Gegard is on his game and he's focused, he should win this fight anytime, in my opinion. But here comes the but. Mousasi sometimes gives me a feeling that he is not really in it sometimes. You know what I mean? And then he just gets by or he loses, and that's a tough task against Salter. You know, Salter. They pretty much both lost to Rafael Lovato Jr. Salter got finished. Mousasi lost the decision. Also, for example, Van Steenis, who is one of Mousasi's training partners, fought Salter. Van Steenis lost the first 2 rounds, won the 3rd round. So for me, it's like Mousasi probably knows a little bit more about Salter because his training partner fought him. But at the other hand, you know, Salter is always dangerous, man, if he gets a fight to the ground. Yeah. And the thing with Mousasi is he only has, in my opinion, one weakness in his game, and that's his takedown defense. That's what Salter might be able to exploit. And if he can keep Mousasi on the ground, he might have a tough night. But that's just the only weakness in Mousasi's game, in my opinion, is his takedown defense. You can look at all his fights he lost. Lovato Jr., he lost, and that's because he couldn't stop the takedown. He lost to
King Mo.
Same thing. The Hall was kind of a fluke thing, in my opinion.
Yeah.
He lost to Jacare. He lost to Machida in the second fight in the UFC, who also took him down several times. We can see the Whiteman fight in the UFC where we got taken down the first round, couldn't stand up, and the second round he won the fight against Whiteman. So he had many of those fights where he had a problem with the takedown defense. So as long as that doesn't come in play, he should win all the time against Salter, you know. But you know, Salter will try to get the fight to the ground, and then then we have to see what happens. But yeah, normally Mousasi should win this one.
Yeah, I mean, I think Salter's a really good fighter, and he kind of got a raw deal from the UFC. He was in it actually 11 years ago. He gets knocked out by Gerald Harris in his debut, and it wasn't like an easy fight back then. Gerald Harris was beating a lot of people. The Jason MacDonald fight was a weird injury, but it's weird because Jason MacDonald ended up getting a couple more fights. This guy gets one more chance against Dan Miller, loses by ninja choke, which is an awesome choke, by the way. Go back and watch that fight. That was awesome. And then guy gets cut and basically reinvented himself in Bellator. I mean, I think he's a really good fighter, so I don't want to completely overlook him here, but I look at Gegard still as like a near elite middleweight. I know he lost to Lovato, but you know, Lovato's retired now. That guy was really good, man. He really was a good grappler, and I think a lot of guys lose to him. So I don't know, Marcel. I mean, he looked amazing against Lima, against all these guys, MacDonald, everyone, Weidman, Hall. I mean, look at the win streak that he's on besides the Lovato Jr. fight. It's pretty impressive. You could say the same thing about Salter, but you really do compare the level of competition. It's night and day. Mousasi's fighting 4 champs, guys like that. Salter's fighting pretty decent mid-tier fighters, but this is too big of a step up. Unless he gets a miracle like guillotine or something or a rear naked choke, I can't see him winning this fight. I think Gegard probably stops him. What do you think, man? 5-round fight?
It's definitely possible, man. I saw John Salter in that fight against Costello Van Steenis, I remember after 2 rounds he was gassed.
Yeah.
You know, and the 3rd round, Van Steenis almost got a 10-8, but Salter took him down 1 minute before and Van Steenis couldn't get up. So that was a 10-9. Yeah, I mean, it's possible, you know. But like I said, man, there is a how do you say that? There are two Musasis, man. There is focused Mousasi, and there is Mousasi like, yeah, we got to do it today. And the focused Mousasi, we saw that in the Rory MacDonald fight, and the Rafael Carvalho fight, and the Douglas Lima fight, and the not the really focused Mousasi was in the Lyoto Machida and the Alexander Shlemenko fight. And he got by in both those fights. I think the Machida fight he definitely won. This wasn't a split, it should have been unanimous.
Mm-hmm.
But the Shlemenko fight was very close and could have been the other way around. If you look at the Lovato fight, he had some good moments in that fight, but Lovato did very well. So it's like, how will Mousasi come into this fight? You probably can see after one round what's going to happen in this fight, I think.
I mean, listen, he's obviously not in his prime anymore. He's 36 years old. John Salter's the same age. They're both 36. So they're both like not young guys by any means. But again, I still think Mousasi's close to being an elite guy. And again, I agree with what you said about like the Shlemenko fight. He probably should have lost. But still, the guy is a dangerous finisher. I'm looking at right now. It's a 5-round fight, and the fight doesn't go the distance as -120. The fight goes distance -120. So it's a pick 'em. I think it's a finish here for Mousasi. I think if he comes, like you said, if he comes in motivated Mousasi, I think he finishes John Salter. And again, this is a guy who's devastating finisher, man. Remember what he did to Thiago Santos, Uriah Hall, Chris Weidman, Vitor Belfort. I understand in Bellator, the MacDonald fight for sure, he looked amazing in that fight. But maybe the last few fights, he really hasn't been as motivated, I guess you could say. And it kind of showed he won the fights, but it wasn't the most like impressive performances. But I do think this is an important fight for him because if he wins this fight, James interviewed him and he said that if he wins, that Bellator has told him he's going to fight the winner of the light heavyweight tournament. That's what they told him. So that's interesting. He was asked to be in the tournament, by the way, which is what a lot of us were wondering. Why isn't Gegard in the tournament at 205? Because he's obviously fought there. He thought, you know what? I'm 20 pounds lighter than these guys. I can't do it right now. I have to take a year off to put on weight. And at age 36, he didn't want to do it, right? So that was his excuse. You can listen to his interview. That's what he said.
I know. I did hear another story on that, but I keep that off the record.
Yeah. Okay, so let me get some comments, guys. I apologize. We were talking about that fight. But we're both going to pick Gegard for sure. Yeah. Cole thinks that Kevin Lee wants a big name, gets pushed back. Yeah, I don't think Gooden's going to get that fight. AJ's or Zach says he likes the fight with Gooden. You know what? The guy looked good, and I don't blame him for calling him out, but I still think Kevin Lee's going to want top, a ranked opponent or top, like a name, I guess. Sweet Time just thinks a Hail Mary sub. Yeah, and I'm looking at the sub prop. I'm just looking at some props right now. Like Mousasi inside the distance, I think that's what happens here is plus 160. But Salter inside the distance plus 350. And that would be his path. So
against who Mousasi got subbed? I think only against Jacare or maybe against Akihiro Gono early in his career.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard to see him get. I mean, he could get stopped because Salter's really good in the ground, but I just think there's levels to the sport. I do think that there's a big difference between Andrew Kappel and Costello Venstinas. I really do, Marcel. No offense to your boy Costello, but like he's a decent fighter, but he's not an elite guy. Chris is here. What's up, guy? What's up, Chris? He says it's nice catching you guys live for a few times. I'm a teacher. Last week of summer. Keep up the good work. You too, man. Thanks a lot. Alex says he wants to see Vanderford and Mousasi, and he's picking Vanderford. Yeah. That'd be a good fight. I think he's underrated. I think people don't like him because he's Paige's husband. He's a good fighter.
That's so stupid.
It is. But honestly, he should have been signed to the UFC. He finished his fight in the Contender Series, and Dana's like, nah, we're going to pass. Because I guess
the only guy
on the ground. Yeah, I remember it was like 5 people that episode got finishes. Like, I will pass on him. As soon as they passed on him, I knew that Paige was gone from the UFC. As soon as that happened, I was like, "There's no way she's coming back to the UFC." So, get these other comments.
By the way,
go ahead.
Alex says Vanderford. I also have to put in Anatoly Tokov, man. I think he's also a guy who deserves to fight for a title in Bellator. Yeah, and it's either if Mousasi wins, it's either Tokov or Vanderford, in my opinion.
Let me just get some comments. Jose was asking about Fiziev making the top 15. I didn't see the rankings up there yet. I've been busy today, but I did see that Gon is the #1 contender now because he's the interim guy, and then Stipe dropped it too. So Stipe is going to be pissed, but it would have been weird if it was like, Francis, Stipe #1, interim champ.
Yeah, that wouldn't make sense.
So that's kind of weird. I got to look at them, but I haven't looked at them.
The lightweight is now Moises is out, 14 is Fiziev, and Sarukian dropped the spot.
I got to be honest, I don't think that Thiago really should have been in there. I mean, he did beat Bobby Green, but it was such a close fight, and he hasn't. Has he really finished anyone. I guess he beat Alexander Hernandez too. Okay, fair enough. I guess he deserved that top 15 spot. But now that he lost to Islam, it was so dominant. I do think guys like Fiziev should be in there before him personally. So I think that they made a good call.
What's your thoughts on the pound for pound rankings? Because they took out Aljamain Sterling, Gaethje went to 14 and 15, or Gan went to 14 and Gaethje dropped to 15, but they took out Aljamain.
I'm looking at them. Okay, I'm looking at them right now. I mean, I don't think he should be. I honestly don't think it's a bad call because I don't think he should be there either. But on paper, he's a champion, so it's kind of weird.
Yeah.
It's just a weird situation because we all know that he shouldn't have won that fight. And, yeah, I mean, it is what it is. It's just a funny situation. I think once October comes and Jan beats him in the rematch, we won't even remember this.
I think Jan is in the pound for pound rankings.
He is. He's 13. Right? I'm looking at it. That's kind of strange, but I don't think it's wrong. Cole said something to note's interesting. Bellator set up injuries with fighters, and Sabah Homasi was on Monday. He flaked on every single one. Tough weight cut. Interesting. I mean, the guy definitely cut some weight to make that division, but I don't know. He's fighting Koreshkov. We'll talk about that fight. Might as well just talk about it right now. Let's just go through it. Andrey Koreshkov and Sabah Homasi. That's the co-main event for this card, guys. And, yeah, I mean, it's a big favor here for Koreshkov, minus 400, Sabah, plus 225. So what I'll say is, if you didn't watch the fight with Paul Daly, that fight was incredible, Marcel. That was one of my favorite fights this year. It was an absolute slugfest. But, again, it showed the biggest issue with this guy, Sabah Homasi. His chin is terrible. You guys remember the UFC 0-3 with 3 knockout losses. Marcel, how many guys go 0-3 with 3 knockout losses? And I know that the fight with Abdul Razak Al-Hassan, Herb Dean screwed it up, but still, the guy doesn't have much of a chin. Got knocked out in his last fight. 4 knockout losses, 5. I'm looking at his record. 6 knockout losses in his career. I mean, it's too many. He's fighting a devastating striker in Koreshkov, who's a former champion. I know that he's struggled a little bit lately. Like, he hasn't looked as good, I guess. But, again, lost to Douglas Lima, lost to Lawrence Larkin. There's no shame in those losses. And in the last fight, he went back to Russia and got a win over this guy, Adriano Rodriguez. I don't really know who he is, but he got a submission win, which is nice to see. He's showing off the ground game, too. I'll have to watch that fight at some point. I mean, listen, Marcel, I think Sabah is an action fighter, but I think he gets destroyed here probably. Koreshkov should knock him out, maybe, if not win a decision. What do you think?
Yeah, it might get back to us, but I think there's a complete mismatch, to be really honest, man. I think Koreshkov is way more all-round, way better fighter. He's been a world-class fighter. He's not maybe on that level anymore he was, but he is still very good, in my opinion, And if you look at Sabah Homasi, yeah, he did well first in Bellator. He won his first 3 fights from two fights with 2 vicious knockouts. Looked he was going to knock out Paul Daly, but Daly came back and knocked him out. Pretty much every real good opponent or a little bit better opponent than Homasi I favor over him. No disrespect to the dude, by the way. But, Koreshkov should win this fight, man. I would be surprised if Homasi wins it. If Homasi wins, this might be how do you say that? A one-punch KO or somebody or something, But I would be surprised if he wins this one.
I mean, it's chalky as hell, guys, but, we saw some Koreshkov, I do think, win their fights. So you look at Bellator, I mean, typically the parlays are pretty good in Bellator. Those are 2 guys you could look at. And I think the next guy here, Magomedov, Marcel, let's talk about him and his fight. He's taking on Rafian Stotts. Now, I think Stotts is a pretty good fighter, but I just feel like Magomedov is I think he's right below the top tier of the bantamweights in the world. I really think he's that good. I don't know why the UFC didn't sign this guy. He was available.
Because they're that ass stupid. That's
bro, he has a win over Peter Yan, which obviously we've seen that fight. I mean, the guy's good. I don't get why did they pass on him?
Because they're that ass stupid. I mean, Magomedov. We got to say that win over Petr Yan was a win after Petr Yan lost a point right after the 5th round, but still very competitive and a very good fight, man. I mean, I said it, and I'm pretty sure you did for years, that Magomedov should sign with the UFC. They waited just as long that Bellator snatched him up, and a great snatch up for Bellator here. Yeah. And same goes for Rafian Stotts, in my opinion. Man. Rafian Stotts is another great talent. He's coming from Rufus Sport, trains with very good people. And the thing is, when he was 8-0, he fought Merab Dvalishvili in Ring of Combat, and Dana was cage side. And Merab knocked him out within 15 seconds with a spinning back fist. And after that, he didn't get signed anymore. And it's stupid. If you look at who he beat after that and before that, dude is an is an absolute beast, man. I don't understand it. It's maybe because they not think he is very wrestling based and it's boring or whatever. Dude, if you have literally the best, you say you have the best company in the sport. You have to get also the best talents in the sport. And they passed on Magomedov and Stoltz, and it just doesn't make sense, man. And it's amazing for those guys to Bellator pick them up because they get the respect they're deserved. And it's an amazing fight, man.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's a good fight, but I mean, you're going with Magomedov, I'm guessing, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't pick up very often against Rory Stoltz because I think he's very solid and he knows how to get a win to him. But man, Magomedov is such a good fighter, man, and I don't get it, man. Dude, that connections with the UFC as well. I think he is how do you say that? Managed by Ali and by Rizwan. So. And he's the one of the best friends of Zabit. So I'm just really curious why the UFC didn't pull the trigger on him. And I think he's gonna win this fight. And man, this is. I don't think any of these guys are going to lose stock here because Stoltz, man, if he loses this one and it will maybe be by a decision, he will be back as well, man. Both guys are really world class in my opinion.
That's what I'm thinking here. So what is that? Magomedov by decision, because that's what I think happens. Plus minus 150, so really it's not a great bet because you have to lay juice on a prop. But that's what I think happens here. Zach's asking if we think the line is too high. I mean, I think it's a little high. It looks a little high actually.
Yeah, it is.
I think Stoltz is decent, and matches up decently well because his grappling is good, right? So if the fight stays standing, can he do some damage? I don't know. I just think Magomedov's going to be too fast for him, man. That's what I think.
I think the funny thing is that almost all of Stotz's fights so far has always been at least a minus 200 favorite, and now he's like a plus 300 underdog.
It's a little weird situation, but I mean at the same time, it's justified in a way because his opponent is really good. But it is weird seeing Stoltz as a big underdog like this. So I'm kind of with you, Zach. I wouldn't pull the trigger myself, but I guess he could win because if he keeps it standing, maybe he can make some noise. I don't know. I'm not sure, Marcel. I just think that Magomedov's going to be too fast for him on the feet and the grappling. I don't know.
I would have put this on the co-main event, by the way.
I think so, too.
Koreshkov. I know Koreshkov is their former champion, but it should be co-main.
By the way, Jose's asking about Demir versus Beneil. I haven't seen anything about that. You heard anything about that, or?
No, man, but I'd be shocked, man. I mean, Beneil is now like in the top 4 or top 3 even. I don't think that, and Demir is not even ranked. So
let me get this call from Jose. This is interesting. I missed this one, Jose. Sorry. He said he was just asking us food for thought, basically. Do you guys think? What do you think of this record? So Khabib was when he was 10-0, he fought opponents with 12-13 record, and Ciryl Gane, when he's now at 10-0, he's fought opponents with 139 and a 33 record. Just like we talked about yesterday, Ciryl Gane is an absolute natural and an absolute beast. I mean, the guy, what he's doing 3 years in the sport, beating the best guys in the world is incredible. You know what I mean? Like, if you do look at Khabib's early career, Marcel, a lot of the guys he beat in Russia were not very good, right? But obviously super dominant in the UFC. I don't want to take anything away from Khabib, but it is interesting for sure because they good, definitely some good observation there. Go ahead.
Gotta say, man, listen, man, Gane is just special with this, I mean, if you look at fighters who started their career, most of their opponents are 1-0, 2-1, 0-0, and I think he has Alderov and Ali Bagov in between those first 10 wins, and those are good wins. But those guys were also in the beginning of their careers, and they have. I think Alderov is 13-1 right now with only lost to Khabib. So the thing is. Listen, man, Gane came later into the sport, and Gane got signed pretty quick with a 3-0 record to the UFC. So then you don't find 0-0 guys anymore in the UFC. You know what I mean? And when you start, and also this is not excuses, but I have a feeling lots of early Russian fights aren't really that well documented as well. You know what I mean? Yeah. So. There might be some guys who have a record of maybe 0-0 there, who maybe had a record 0-3, but maybe had a record 3-1 or 3-0. So I don't know, man. It's very hard to compare. I think if you compare anybody else to Khabib, it's the same thing. Gane is just different because he got signed at 3-0 by the UFC, and he got thrown he got thrown. How do you say that? Thrown for the Lions?
Thrown to the Wolves.
To the Wolves, yeah. Before he signed with the UFC, he fought Ditska, man, in his second fight. It's crazy.
I know. That was like, I think that was the one fight he had some trouble with. There's one of the fights at TKO he got dropped in, rocked or whatever. I think it was that fight. But I mean, the guy's amazing. Okay, so let's go to the next one here. We'll go like the rest of the card. Honestly, there's I guess one or two more like notable fighters, but for the most part, not a lot of like big names. We'll go through a little
simultaneously with PFL, so we can choose.
Exactly. So we'll just go a little bit quicker on the prelims here. Now, actually, this is on the main card, but Davion Franklin, Everett Cummings. Any thoughts on this one? Because right now we got Davion is the minus 230 favorite, Cummings plus 190. So Franklin's a guy that a lot of people think is really good, but this Cummings guy, Marcel, 15-0, never lost yet. A lot of knockouts. He's fought a lot of scrubs though, man, in like Gladiator Challenge and stuff. So I don't really know how good this guy is, guys, because he's fighting Gladiator Challenge like every other weekend, basically. No, I'm just kidding. But you know what? I mean, the guy does have some experience in Bellator, but from what I see of Franklin, the guy seems like kind of a beast. Any thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I'm looking at Everett Cummings' list. I literally don't know anybody he fought, to be really honest, man, and that's no disrespect.
Yeah.
Davion Franklin, yeah, he has looked good in Bellator so far, but yeah, he got a win over Tyler King in a fight that I expected him to win. He got a win over Russ Hilton in a fight I expected him to win. They got a win against J.W. Kaiser. I expected him to win as well. So I don't know, man. Listen, man, I at least they give him on paper fighter with a good record. You know what I mean? Sometimes they give guys they want to build like a 1-2 or a 2-3 guy. This looks good, 15-0. And if you are looking at it and you don't do your research, you're like, 15-0 against 3-0. He's gonna easily win that 15-0. But nah, man. I mean, I think Davion Franklin is a great fighter. I really look forward to see him fight again. And Everett Cummings, I don't know too much about the guy, man. Gotta be honest. So we'll see on Friday. You know.
It's crazy. The guy's a 15-0 record. I don't even recognize any of the guys he's beaten. That's the crazy thing.
He's 34 as well already.
It's just crazy. It's kind of weird. Like, but again, he's fighting in the California regional scene for Gladiator Challenge, and he's fought in Bellator too. But I
agree with you, and he's also heavyweight, man. So I mean, that's really weird. It's
strange. Like I honestly don't really know a lot about this. When I saw it this week, I was like, who is this guy, right? So, anyways, let's go through the other fights kind of quick. Ty Gorder against Kadzi Murat Bastayev for this fight. Marcel minus 255 Gorder. He's a big favorite here. Bastayev plus 215. What do you think? You think Bastayev can pull it off, or do you think Gorder wins?
To be really honest, Bastayev is one of those Russian guys I'm really not too high on, man. He has a decent record, but I saw him fight against Phil Hawes in the Contender Series. Didn't look great, in my opinion. His LFA fights didn't look great. Got injured in the first fight against Mennefield. In the second fight, he got knocked out by Blake Troop. I mean, and he also got many fights on Gladiator Challenge, where it's just said as well. If you look at Ty Gorder, Ty Gorder is pretty decent, man. I think he's 1-2 in Bellator, but he lost to decent opponents with Josh Greer and Dalton Rasta. So I would favor Ty Gorder in this fight.
Get some breaking news from Cole Sheldon here in the chat, guys. David Feldman, that's the BKFC president, just said Diego Sanchez's signing is all but done. Just needs Diego to get medically tested and cleared before they sign. I mean, that's not a guarantee by any means. But I think that a lot of us thought this was going to happen because he had tweeted about this. I think when he got cut from the UFC, he was like, "What do you guys think about me doing boxing or bare knuckle?" I mean, I don't know what to say, man. Like, obviously, I'll probably end up watching his fight. I guess I'm not going to go on my way to watch it, but I'm sure I'll see the clips on it. But I've said this one before. I don't have a problem with BKFC, but it really isn't my cup of tea. I love MMA. BKFC doesn't interest me as much. It's not as dynamic, right?
You know what bothers me about it is that they also always signing guys who are almost retired and luring them back with money to get fights. That's what really bothers me, about it.
Well, I mean, I'm glad someone's paying these guys because,
I understand, but please do it while they're in their prime. You know what I mean? Now you're getting guys back who are in their 40s almost, and you just pretty much want to make an event out of their name. You know what I mean? It's not even about the fight no more. It's because they have name value for your event, and that's something. Yeah, I know it's our own choice, and I'm happy they get paid. Don't get me wrong, but I feel like if you are 42 or 43. It just sucks, man, that you still have to do it to get the money. You know what I mean? And,
I agree.
That's just the thing what I have with it.
It's tough, man. It's a tough sport, man. And bare knuckle is tough. I mean, it's brutal. All right, let's just go through the pre. I'm not going to really break down these fights. We'll just talk about the odds, and then I'll get your thoughts quickly. Pam Sorensen here against Roberta Payne Samad. Sorensen, slight favorite, minus 140, and Samad plus 120. We also have Justin Montalvo against Kenley St. Louis. minus 230 for Montalvo, plus 190 for St. Louis. And we have Sebastian Ruiz against Jeffrey Glossner. And for that fight, Glossner minus 235, Ruiz plus 195. And finally, rounding out the card, Orlando Mendoza against John McNeil. And Mendoza minus 135, McNeil plus 115. These guys don't even have a pro fight, and somehow they're odds for that. How do they even know who should be favored? Like, it doesn't even make sense. Like, I don't even get it. Anyways, the only fight really of those that like kind of piques my interest is Sorensen, because she's a big name, I guess, in the women's featherweight division. But, you know, I don't know, man. I don't know a lot about her opponent, Samad. I'm looking at her right now. She's in PFL. Yeah, it's PFL. She's fought Julia Budd in Bellator. She's been in MMA for 8 years and has like 5 fights. So she barely fights, 6 fights actually. Barely fights. I don't know. Any thoughts on this before we go to the next PFL?
No, not really. I gotta be really honest with you on this card. I'm really interested in the main event and how Koreshkov does Magomedov against Stutz. I'm really interested in, and all the others I will watch, but I'm not really like, wow.
Yeah, no, I'm kind of with you. Like, Bellator's actually had some like pretty deep cards lately. I think this one's one of the more shallow ones they did. The main card's good, but the prelims are not that great in this card. But the main card's solid. I will give them some credit though. The last few cards, they've been pretty deep on the prelims. Like, the guy like Georgie Kirikanian, deep on the prelims. You know what I mean? Like someone like that.
I agree with you.
So let me get these comments. Cole said Diego Shannon versus Chad Mendes at 155 in bare knuckle. Because Chad Mendes, we didn't talk about him. He's signing there too, I believe. He's actually under UFC contract, but they're letting him sign there, which is weird.
Cool. You really enjoy that BKFC.
He's close with them, and I'm glad he is because Cole enjoys it. I think probably a little bit more than me and you, Marcel, and he obviously it's got a good relationship with David, which is awesome. But yeah, it's just I don't know. I really love MMA because there's just so many different ways to win, and to lose too. But it's just I find it more interesting. Don't get me wrong. I'll still tune in for the occasional bare knuckle fight. And Diego, I'm sure a lot of us will watch that fight. But is it the best idea for his career and his health? Probably not. I am glad he's away from that Josh Fabia guy. Zach, just to get your final question, he's asking if we're more excited about PFL or Bellator. I would say the PFL card, which we're going to get into now, to be honest with you. And your other question about Sabatello is off the card, man. Just so you know, that's why that line is crazy now. He's off the card.
100% PFL. I'm more interested in on Friday, but I will watch Bellator because there are 3-4 fights I really want to see. So I will watch both, but I'm more interested in the PFL overall.
I mean, the PFL card's better. It's just straight up better. Yeah. PFL is doing good things right now, man. I like what they're doing. I think they have good cards. They're deep cards. I just saw you post the next one. The end of the month. Yeah. It's a deep card. There's some good fighters in the prelims. So I really like PFL. They've come out with this press release this week saying they're the number 2 organization in MMA in the world. I don't know if they are. I still think probably is Bellator or maybe 1, if anything. But I think PFL is well on their way, man. I like what they're doing, and I'm a fan of the promotion right now. Or not the promotion, more like the format. I really like the format. I think it's great for the sport. What are you gonna say?
The format is good, but I think that if PFL wants to compete with these guys, they have to put on more events. You know what I mean? Not just the regular season and the playoffs, but maybe also some like just loose cards. You know what I mean? Just like a card on January, and do it with fighters who are not in the tournament or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree completely.
I have to earn their spot in the tournament. I know they did with some fighters who fought in other organizations, a PFL tournament, like a 4-man tournament, who had to win and then got in the PFL. Maybe do that for your own organization.
Yeah, I think that's pretty cool, actually. But anyways, I like PFL. So to answer your question, I personally enjoy. Lately, I've been enjoying PFL more than Bellator. But again, there's only 10 PFL events a year. Mm-hmm. Here's Cole's response to your comment. Marcel, if you know anything, I'm about circuses, and BKFC is a circus. The exact same reason I'm all about the Paul brothers, because it's a circus. I agree with Bornigan too. Hey, what's going on, man? He says he likes their production presentation. I think the commentary is better too. I think it's less biased. I think they have good commentary. Bellator, whenever I watch their events, it sure seems like they're trying to push one guy to win the fight. It sure seems like it when I'm watching their cards. Whereas the PFL, I think they're literally just trying to find the best guy in the weight class that they can get. Let's go into this card, Marcel. I'm looking forward to talking about these fights. Go ahead. Last comment.
You know when you always know when somebody is hoping a certain fighter wins is when they're talking about of the perspective all the time from that fighter. You know what I mean? If you have, for example, Mousasi against Sultan upcoming next on Friday, if somebody's talking out of Mousasi's perspective the whole damn time, you know they want Mousasi to win. If they're talking about Sultan's perspective the whole damn time, you know they want Sultan to win. You know what I mean? That's how you can hear it. You hear it in the UFC very many times when I think it was Sean O'Malley against was the guy again he fought last time, the Chris Coutinho guy.
Yeah,
they were talking about Sean O'Malley's perspective the whole damn time, and that makes me think you want him to win. You know, if you are not biased, you don't talk about someone's perspective. You do it for both guys. You know what I mean? That's how I always notice.
I agree. All right, let's talk about these fights. We got Rory MacDonald against Ray Cooper III. Now, this is the main event. It's also a semifinal in the welterweight tournament. So the odds for this one right now, the odds are kind of messed up on best fight odds. Like they're all over the place. They have the wrong fights on the wrong card, just so you guys know if you look there. But right now the odds, it's a pick'em. It's a pick'em. It's minus 110 each. So it's just whoever you think wins. Really, I mean, it's definitely not an easy fight to call by any means. I think both guys. Actually, you know what's crazy? They have the same record. How crazy is that? They're both 22-7-1. That's fucking insane. How is that possible? That's really weird. I mean, yeah, that's really weird. I think it's a good fight, but even though he lost his last fight, I still favor Rory in this fight, Marcel. I think you have to favor him. I understand that he lost to T-Bell. That's a bad look. He should have won the fight. I know that his chin is not the greatest anymore. I get that. If Cooper catches him, you could hurt him. But Rory still got an amazing ground game. We saw that against Curtis Millinger. You know, Ray Cooper III, the guy's good, don't get me wrong, but he's been finished by Magomedov, we'll talk about in a minute. He's also been knocked out by John Howard. That one still sticks in my mind, too. It's like the guy, as good as he is, I think he's really good, Ray Cooper III. Huge power and everything. But defensively, he leaves a lot of holes, and he's been submitted actually quite a few times in his career. So, I mean, it's possible you catch Rory, and this guy has the experience in the tournament. But I think Rory wins this fight. What do you think, Marcel?
Yeah, man. I mean, Rory coming back after went to the police station for filing a complaint for the robbery against Clayton Tebow. That's one of the worst robberies I've seen in a long, long time. You know, I already think I want to put the results in MMA DNA, and I already put Rory MacDonald defeat Clayton Tebow unanimous decision, and I was waiting for the scorecard, and I was like, oh, I have to, crazy, you know. In my opinion, there was no way Tebow won that fight. I think Rory MacDonald is more all round than Ray Cooper, man. I think Ray Cooper has knockout power, you know. He's a good fighter, but Rory MacDonald, if he's still on his top, and I think he can still be, you know, he should win this fight and proceed to the finals, in my opinion.
I agree. I mean, Ray is not usually a guy that gets like a ton of respect. Like his last fight, he was actually a bigger underdog than this fight. That's kind of weird to me. I think they think Rory's kind of on the decline because of the T-Bell fight. I'm not convinced. I think he should have won that fight, and
people haven't watched that fight.
I guess so. I mean, I'm surprised the line's is close. That's what I'll say, because I think Rory should be a bigger favorite. I want to know what you guys think. AJ's asking, Zach's asking about. He likes Rory. He thinks it's a good line. I kind of with you, Zach. To be honest with you, I think it's a short line. I like Ray Cooper III though. I actually bet on this guy quite a bit in the PFL tournaments. He's very good. I love the guy. I just think Rory is probably going to win this fight. What do you think? A decision or maybe a stoppage? What do you think?
I'll go with a decision, man.
Decision, yeah. Just point fighting. Cooper's only 28, still hungry, getting better. If Rory can't take him down, he loses, I think. It's possible. Rory beat T, but I didn't look good doing it 29-28. I agree with that. It wasn't his most impressive performance, but you know what? At that point, basically had a seed locked up in the tournament. It's a little different when you factor in the tournament, right? Like, he didn't need to even try to really finish that fight. You know what I mean? It didn't hurt him in the tournament, basically, but it hurt him for his wallet because he didn't get a win bonus. Yeah. Anyways, like I said, should be a great fight. I'm actually looking forward to this card because, I mean, this fight's awesome. And this co-main event's pretty good, too. Now, we got to mention that it's a short notice fight because Magomedov, the guy who won the first season, he was supposed to fight João Zeferino, a guy who was actually the first seed in this tournament. He was looking good, but he's out of the tournament now. He's fighting Sadar Boussi, a guy that I don't really have I don't think he's a great fighter, Marcel, honestly. I know he's coming off a win over Konchenko, the former UFC fighter. That's nice to see, but I haven't been super impressed. And, you know, it's a guy that's kind of like, you look at, they both have the same amount of losses, 5, but one guy's got 28 wins, one guy's got 9. And Magomedov, you know, had he not got sick last year or 2 years ago against Chris Curtis, after he beat Chris Curtis, he got sick. He was supposed to fight in the final, I believe, Marcel, right? He didn't end up fighting because he got ill. He probably would have won that last tournament too. So this guy is really good, and obviously you look at the odds right now for this one. He is a pretty big favorite, Marcel. Magomed Karimov, minus 670, plus 350 for C. I mean, I'm assuming you're going with Magomed Karimov.
I mean, he's fighting the Swedish Denzel Washington. So that's his official nickname. Yeah, of course I'm with Magomed Karimov, man. I always call him the Dagestani Eminem. I think he's a great fighter, man. He's probably one of the best fighters PFL has, and really just overall very good. Has only looked good in the PFL so far, man, to be honest. I mean, I think he won all of his fights. Yeah. How do you pick Sadibou Boussi here? I don't know. Got to be honest here, man. I have nothing against Sadibou Boussi, but I think Magomed Karimov is one of the best fighters they have. And he's also my favorite to win the whole tournament if he stays healthy. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this guy's really good. And, man, I remember when he fought Ray Cooper in the first tournament. I was like, oh, Ray's going to win because I was so high on Ray, and I still am. But, I mean, this guy really showed me how good he is. And then, obviously, last year he looked great too. And then, or 2 years ago, I should say, they didn't have a tournament last year, but got sick on the last day of the fight. I think he wins this fight. I'm pretty confident. Do you think he finishes the fight?
Yeah, I think he will. It probably is a submission win in the first or second round.
I'm kind of thinking that too. I'm actually kind of with Marcel in that the finish kind of seems likely. So you're looking at 670 for chalk for the money line, but you could look at the props too. By submission, Marcel said that's what he's picking. Plus 165, you get plus money, plus 215 for a knockout. So I would maybe look at the props. You want to play him straight instead, but I think he wins that fight for sure. I'm not too high on C. I got to be honest with you. Let me get these comments. Born again. Rory's looked so timid since the first meeting fight. I agree. And, he could get clipped here, but again, he is training at Sanford now. I'd like to think that training's helping him. I still believe in Rory. We'll see what happens. If you learn UFC betting experience, what's going on, man? He said, if you learn one thing from Rory's last fights, PFL wants Magomed and Rory for the final fight. As long as Rory doesn't get finished, he wins. PFL judges are fixed. That's funny. I really don't know what happened with that decision. It was really weird. And of course, the one thing I'll say is, Marcel, there's never any sort of the judges never get in trouble for this shit. Like, they can screw up as bad as they can. They never get talked to or anything, eh?
True. By the way, now you're talking about Sanford. I showed you last night Gregory Rodriguez, who was asking Twitter if he really looked like Barack Obama.
It looks like the GSP statue that everyone said looked like Barack Obama. No, I'm a big fan of Gregory Rodriguez. He's fighting. Yeah, he's amazing. He's fighting Jong Young Park, right? That's the fight.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah, Jong Young Park, a guy. I was just looking at Cooper's record. He fought Jong Young Park and got submitted by him. So that guy's very good too. The Iron Turtle, I believe his nickname is. All right, so let's go to the lightweight semifinals. Marcel, Clay Collard against Roush Manfield. This is an interesting fight. We got Clay Collard minus 160, Roush Manfield plus 140. I feel like Roush is a pretty underrated guy, but Collard coming off some pretty impressive performances. What are you thinking here, man?
Yeah, it's a difficult fight, I think, man. I think Clay Collard, like you said, he looked very solid against Anthony Pettis, but I think he got dropped in the third round, right? And Pettis almost still won. So Jolton Lutterback, I always know the guy as Jolton Santos, so it's so weird to see Lutterback.
So apparently that guy, so just quickly, I remember I was talking about this guy a few months ago. I'm like, who is this guy? He changed his name because he got married. He took his wife's last name. He's like, we have enough Brazilian Santoses out there or whatever. We'll think of German name instead. Seriously, he took his wife's name.
Then it's Lutterbach.
Yeah.
Okay. So
he's German.
Yeah, that makes sense because he fought many times in Germany. So yeah, I was like, why is it called Lutterback now? But okay. Yeah, I think Roush Manfield, he got 2 split decision wins, which is still 2 wins, and both guys fought the same opponent. That's pretty funny actually. Clay Collard also fought Pettis and Lutterback. So we had to say Lutterback. Sorry guys. Yeah, I think it's a difficult fight. I would say it's a pick'em in my opinion. I would go with Roush Manfield, but I'm not sure. I would say it's a pick'em to me.
Actually, you know what, man? I mean, it's not me and Marcel talk about these fights at all. Like, I like Clay Collard, and I understand why he's favored. He obviously had the win over Pettis, looked amazing. But I think Roush is a little bit underrated by most people, and I think he might win this fight too. So I'm not betting on this fight. I'll tell you that right now. I think it's dog or pass. I really do. I know this guy didn't look as impressive as Pettis did, but it's all matchup based. And Collard, he's very good offensively, but he leaves a lot of holes defensively. I think that this guy can win a decision. What do you think? A decision for Roush?
Yeah. I would go with a decision.
What's the odds? I want to see what the odds on that are, because I actually do think there's a good chance that happens. Or either guy. I think the fight probably goes the distance. I'll say that. I would think it goes the distance. Roush by decision is plus 250. That's not bad. I think there's a chance that wins. Now, the other fight, we got Loic Radzhabov against Alex Martinez, the other lightweight semifinal. Radzhabov minus 160, Martinez plus 140. Give me your thoughts on this one, man. I mean, Loic's the number one seed here. Martinez, a guy from he's actually, I believe, training in Canada now, which is cool. So he's a guy that surprised some people too. So what do you think, man? He's basically the guy that kicked out Nathan Schulte from the tournament because he got in instead.
Yeah, I remember that. Radzhabov, he looked good in that fight. His last fight against Ahmed Aliyev, where he knocked him out. I think he was an underdog in that fight, so that was good. The first fight was actually against Alex Martinez, so it's a rematch, and that was a very close fight. It could have been his as well. So, difficult, man. It's really difficult. I'm not really that high yet on Alex Martinez. I think he can still improve. Loic Radzhabov has looked pretty good so far, in my opinion. He has also some losses, I know that, but against decent opponents. I would slightly favor Radzhabov, although Martinez won the first fight, but I would go with Radzhabov. Again, a decision, man. I don't see the finish in this one.
Yeah, this is difficult, this one. I got to be honest with you, because I think if we hadn't seen them fight earlier this year, I would definitely pick Radzhabov, but he did end up losing that decision. It was a close fight, though, right? I don't know. I mean, I think he's definitely the better fighter, but I don't know if I would bet on him because he did lose to this guy just 2 months. Actually, it was in June. Or sorry, not June, April, sorry. So it was 4 months ago. I mean, that's not a long time ago. I do think that Radzhabov probably is going to make the adjustments, get the win here, but Martinez has, surprised me in the tournament. I don't know if I want to bet against him in this spot, but I would lean a little bit towards Radzhabov. Zach thinks Radzhabov was robbed in the first fight. Yeah, I think a lot of people thought he won that fight. He's definitely good. He's got a lot of experience, but again, Martinez has surprised this tournament, guys. And if we know anything about the PFL tournaments, there's quite a bit of upsets in these tournaments, so we can say that. We'll go through the prelims quickly because these fights are non-tournament fights. But we got Curtis Miller against Gleison Tebow, and it's actually a pick'em fight too. But I mean, based on how Gleison looked against Rory, wouldn't you think he would win? He probably should win this fight. It's not like Milner's that great. Milner's not that good actually, and his ground game's terrible. So. I mean, if he stays on the feet, he probably can, outstrike Tebow, but I don't trust Milner's takedown defense whatsoever. What do you think?
100% with you. Tebow gets the fight to the ground. It's pretty much over. So, yeah.
I mean, that's, again, he isn't a natural welterweight. He's a lightweight. We know that. But, Milner's takedown defense is really bad. It's some of the worst I've seen. So, I mean, I had a pick him price, Gleison Tebow after a win over Rory. To me, that looks like that's kind of a line you want to look at, guys. I would say take a closer look at Gleison Tebow here because the odds are good. I mean, they really are, and he's fighting a guy who's not that good. Really. If Miller keeps the fight standing, he can outstrike him, but the guy's takedown defense sucks. Miller's a fish water on the mat. I agree. Last 2 losses, 3 by 5 by submission. Tebow by submission plus 450. That's possible for sure. You get that guillotine. He's got that power guillotine. I was just going to say this. Tebow was massive for lightweight. A lot of people are still convinced he beat Khabib in that fight, like in 2012. He's talking about Zach was talking about that last fight, Martinez. Yeah. I mean, it's just that's what you're saying. What does the judge see, right? That's the worry. It's what the judge sees. Let's talk about the other fight here. Olivier Aubin-Mercier, Daryl Horcher, another guy who actually fought Khabib. I remember when they booked that fight, and I'm like, why is this fight happening? Like, that was one of the dumbest fights they ever did in the UFC. But OAM's a massive favorite here, Marcel. He's 5-1. You expect him to win?
Yeah, I definitely expect him to win. Yeah, I think he's a great fighter. Yeah. Well, he lost 3 in a row in the UFC. I know that, but I mean, I always saw the talent in him. I always think he's a quality fighter, and they kind of did him wrong in the UFC, in my opinion, man. I know he lost 3 in a row. He lost to Alexander Hernandez, but he lost to Gilbert Burns and Arman Tsarukyan, and the majority of the fighters right now will lose to definitely to Tsarukyan and Burns, So, yeah, I don't know. And he won against Marcin Held in his PFL debut. So, I would favor him against Horcher. I do. Yeah.
Yeah, me too. I mean, he's a big favorite for a reason. He's definitely a guy to look at if you're a parlay better, I would say. How does OAM get it done? I just think he's probably going to just be better than Horcher everywhere. I don't rate Horcher that high. I know he's got, I guess, okay grappling, but I think OAM probably just a little better everywhere. What do you think so too?
Yeah, I agree. I might go with a submission either.
Awesome,
even,
man. All right, let's go to the next fight here. We got Tyler Hill and Brett Cooper. Now, Brett Cooper's a guy that, Marcel, I think he's an underrated guy. And I remember that fight with Alexander Shlemenko and Bellator was super close. Remember that one? Very, very close fight. The guy, he's a well-traveled veteran. He's been fighting in Russia lately, coming off a DQ win, I guess, fighting on Tyreek Hill here. And earlier in the chat, Boringham was asking about what we think about Cooper by knockout, because Hill, he was coming off a knockout loss in his last fight. He's also knocked out by Dwight Grant on Contender Series. What do you think is going to happen in this one, man? You like Hill or you like Cooper?
I like Cooper, to be honest, man. I think the fighters he lost against, man, are good fighters, man, but they are not very well known by the majority of the people, man. Berkamov as a former champion in ACB. Salamu Abdurrahmanov is I think even a current champion in ACA, and Sharaf Davlatmuradov is also a good fighter. So he lost to very solid fighters, and he also looked pretty good in all those other fights he won. And he got a DQ fight in his DQ in his last fight. That's true, against Efremov, but I still rank him higher than Tyler Hill, man, who. Yeah, he got wins in Island fights and Atlas fights, but those are not really like wow wins. He lost in the Contender Series a few years ago. I remember against Dwight Grant, where I think he was a favorite in that, or was he an underdog in that fight?
Let me double check. One sec. Let me check on best fight odds. It's the most accurate line. Dwight Grant was a big favorite, actually.
He was a big favorite. Okay.
Yeah, he was. Yeah.
So and I mean, I don't see it happen. I think Brett Cooper is pretty strong. I would favor him anytime over Tyler Hill, but maybe I'm wrong.
No, I think so. Boring wants us to give us our prop on Olivier Aubin-Mercier, probably because he wants to play a prop. So let's give it to him. I mean, you're saying sub? You think over Horcher? Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah, man, it's possible. Maybe I think in the later rounds a sub, so maybe over 2.5.
I'm thinking it's going to go a decision probably, but I just think he's going to be better everywhere. Basically, he'll have some top control. He'll have the striking. That's what I think happens. Let's go. There's a couple of fights left. Magomed Umalatov against Mika Terrell, Kyron Bowen against Michael Lombardo, and Hopton Stewart against Elvin Espinoza. Quick odds on these ones. Umalatov, he's a huge favorite, Marcel, over Terrell. Espinoza is a big favorite over Stewart, and Lombardo is a big favorite over plus 250. Lombardo, another Contender Series alum. A lot of guys actually from Contender Series are ending up in PFL now. Any thoughts on these last couple of fights?
Yeah, man. If you want my pick for it, I'm going with Umalatov. I'm going with Lombardo, and I gotta be really honest. The first prelim, I have no idea. So.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that one. I didn't know a lot about those guys. I was doing the opening odds the other day. I'm like, who are these guys? It's almost weird that one guy's such a big favorite when I don't think people really know who they are. You know what I mean? It's kind of strange. Anyways, we got 5 minutes left here. We'll take any more questions about this PFL card, but I do want to talk just a few fight announcements before we get out of here, Marcel.
Right.
You did. I think you got them today on your page. We'll open it quickly. Now, I just don't understand this. I don't really understand this match. I want to get your thoughts on it. Okay, I don't know if you know what I'm referring to.
But immediately know which one.
You do? Okay, great. Okay, so I mean, let's just pull it up here. We're gonna have 5 minutes on this, guys, with fight announcements. Listen. Okay, so the fights are meant to against Christos Giagos. It's next month. Now, I know Giagos had a great win in his last fight. He looked great, but Armin's a top 15 guy, and I really thought he would get a step up. It just seems like no one wants to fight him. I'm guessing that's what it is. What do you think?
Yeah, pretty much what I think it is. Yeah, I mean, Armin should fight somebody. I don't want to say Giagos isn't good, but he should fight somebody better. You know what I mean? He should get challenged. I mean, he got a good win in his last 3 fights. He won against Davi Ramos. Then he was supposed to fight Nasrat Hakparas. Got a fight on against Matt Frivola on catch weight 160 pounds. So now fighting Giagos. Listen, Giagos good, but I mean, I think everybody hoped Armin got a step up in competition, but I still have the feeling the UFC doesn't see Armin as a potential superstar yet, and that's probably the reason. But I don't get it. I think the most people don't get it.
After I saw him fight Islam, I knew he was good.
Yeah, exactly. Everybody was like, he's gonna get smashed by Islam, but he didn't get smashed.
He looked good.
Gave a
He's
very competitive
fast,
fight.
good striking, good wrestling.
Yeah.
Tarsukian rolls. I agree. I mean, again, that's next month. It's not like we're going to break it down here, but I'm just looking at it. I like Yagos. This looks like a really hard fight for him. It really does.
Yeah.
There's a few other fights that we talked about. This one, we got Barack Obama against Jung Young Park. Yeah, I mean, I'm a big fan of RoboCop. I like the Iron Turtle too. I actually like the fight. What do you think of this one?
Somebody said Andrew Yang against Barack Obama. Let's talk that one. Yeah, man. Listen, man, Park looked good so far, man, in the UFC. Besides one fight, I think he looked really good against Stefan and Chukwu last time out. You know, he did really well. And I think all comments are about Barack Obama, right?
I know.
So yeah, I thought so. I saw you laughing. Rodriguez looked solid against Todorovic, and we both called that. So yeah, it's a good matchup, man. It's a great fight to see where both guys standing, and I think the winner of this fight is even close to a top 15 spot.
I just have to go back and watch Rodriguez's takedown defense. I can't remember. I know his striking is good. I just can't remember his takedown defense because Park, if he gets the fight to the ground, he'll win. I think. Although his boxing looked pretty good in his last fight against Tafon, he surprised me in that fight. A couple other ones. Now, okay, so a lot of people are pissed about this fight because they're like, what are they doing? The UFC's doing Edmund dirty, but not really because. First off, the guy's ranked. You can't not fight ranked or guys that the UFC tells you to fight. They're like, you're gonna fight Imavov, he's gonna fight him. And this guy's a young, dangerous dude. He's only 25 though. Everyone's talking about Edmund being 23. Imavov is only 25, Marcel. So he's super young too. I mean, I don't want to write off Edmund yet, but I really like Imavov, man. What do you think?
I think it's a good matchup for both guys, to be really honest, man. Listen, Edmund has to defend his spot. He lost 2 times in a row. And now he gets a guy who's outside of the top 15. But with that, he gets probably one of the most difficult fights to fight a guy outside the top 15. This is a very difficult task, I think. If you look at Imavov, look good so far. And I saw someone yesterday said, like, why the hell get Imavov lost to Haas, get Edmund, and Dawkins lost to Haas, get Holland, and Haas has to win. I don't know, man. I still think the UFC thought that Imavov won the fight against Haas, and that's why he gets this opportunity. And he looked good against Heinisch last time, right? And Heinisch is like just outside of the top 15 at that moment. So now he gets a guy who is in the top 15. So yeah, it makes sense. And for Edmund, it makes sense to see where he stands in the division, if he is still top 15 or not. So yeah, I think it's a good matchup.
Yeah. So a couple, maybe there's a couple more. We'll get out in a minute. That's rescheduled. I think that's it, right? I mean, no. This guy's hair, he looks like he actually looks like Robin Lopez, the NBA player. That's what he looks like. Or Krusty the Clown, right?
Somebody called him something Bob, and I had to laugh about it.
Sideshow Bob, yeah.
How was that?
Sideshow Bob.
Yeah, Sideshow Bob.
Sideshow Bob from Simpsons. That's too funny. Yeah. That is too funny, man. Yeah, he really does. I'm surprised both these guys are on the roster, I gotta be honest with you, Marcel. When I saw that fight. We didn't
also see that Garcia goes up to 155.
Yeah.
It goes down from 185 to 155. It's crazy.
Last one we'll talk about here, Volkov and Tibura. I mean, a good fight for both guys.
Makes sense.
Yeah, it's a good fight. I mean, I don't know what to say. Like, it's a tough fight to call. Like, they're both really good heavyweights. So,
hey man, what about Tibura, man?
He's your boy. He's your boy, and you've liked his comeback. But I mean, Volkov is such a good striker. This looks like it could be a tough fight for him. I gotta go. I remember the fight with Blades, and I know that Blades got him down, but he kept fighting to get back up to the feet. And if Tibura cannot take him down, he could be in trouble. I know. Again, he beat Harris by was it ground and pound? I think.
Yeah.
I don't know. Walt Harris to me is like one of the most overrated guys right now, and I understand the guys. I feel bad for the guy. Don't get me wrong, but the guy keeps getting these huge fights. It doesn't make sense to me. Anyways, that's gonna be it for today's podcast, guys. Glad you guys tuned in. It was a lot of fun today. Good questions, and everything. Marcel, thanks again for the bear and for the questions. Plug your stuff. Let's get out of here.
Yeah, but I'm happy you're happy with the bear, man. So that's cool. Yeah, Big Marcel 24, Twitter, Instagram, and MMADNA.nl, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook.
Yep, there you go. So you guys can follow me on Twitter at MMADMartin Podcast. MMAOddsbreaker.com. Podcast is also at iTunes, Spotify, all those places. What else? BJPen.com, at MyMMAnews.com. Got some news coming out this week. MMAOddsbreaker.com obviously got some odds coming out, Bellator, PFL, etc. And then my elite fantasy and elite sports betting, but nothing this week because there's no UFC. So I got a week off, which is nice. I need the time off, man. Honestly, like I need to get some of my sleep, guys. It's been a crazy week. But anyways, thanks again, guys. I'll talk to you soon. Peace.